Tonight's species is one of the favorite on the menu. Some people like it fried, and other people like it sauteed. My family like it as sushi. In either case, Yellowtail Snapper is beautiful and really fun to catch. So get ready because it's time for the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I want to thank you for tuning in this week. And as you can see, Brie's still out enjoying her time with her new baby. So my sidekick this week is my buddy from the Real Legend Central East region, Captain Jim Ross. Jim, thank you so much for being here and filling in for Brie.
Oh man, it's a pleasure to be here. I enjoy being on the set. It's so exciting. It's such a beautiful set. Get you ready to go fishing, and we got a great species tonight.
Yes, we do. And another two guys that really know a lot about yellowtails is Dave Farrell and Randy Towle over at the workbench. What you got, guys?
Well, everything I know about Yellowtail Snapper, I learned from him. So I'm glad he's here tonight to show us how to do it.
Well, I'm glad he's here too. So, you know, Jim, we're talking about Yellowtail Snappers. So what do you got for me?
Well, I've got a surprise. You're going to have to wait for my report, but we've got a surprise for you in my report about yellowtail. But I really like yellowtail, and me and my family, we go on vacation every year down to the Florida Keys.
Yeah.
Go out at least one of those days, go yellowtail snapper fishing, usually get a pointer or two from Randy, and come back with enough for dinner, go to one of the local restaurants, have it cooked up for us, and enjoy an absolutely incredible tasting fish. I just absolutely love yellowtail snapper. I wish we had more of them in my region.
I wish you had more too. But you know, since he is here in the studio starting us off this, our expert from the Florida Keys region, Captain Randy Towle, what's up in the Alta Equipment region, Randy?
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, the Alta Equipment region, we've got yellowtails from Key Largo to Key West, the dry Tortugas, and they really have a target on their back almost every day of the year. And they're very sought after. Everybody likes to catch them, and certainly they like eating them. You're going to want to fish the edge of the reef this time of year from 50 to 80 feet. And, you know, you want to look for some moving water. Moving water is always helpful. When you're anchored in chumming, you want to get that chum going away from you to bring those yellowtails to the boat. And a lot of times, you want to be patient. Don't start putting a bunch of rods in the water and fishing too quickly. I like to wait till I see them. And then also, you're going to have some encounters with some sharks possibly. So try not to get too far away when you got a fish on. The further he's out, the less chance you're going to have to catch him. So you want to be aware of that. And I like light line, 12-pound test. Fluorocarbon usually is what I go with. Depending on the current, it might be just a small hook with no weight, or it might be a small jig head with a piece of bait on it. I like fresh cut bait like ballyhoo or a blue runner if I get it. And we've even been catching them on the fish bites. So it just depends on where you're fishing, and how they're behaving is really going to do the trick. I've got a photo of Olivia from Boston fishing with me a couple of days ago, catching nice yellowtail and Islamorada.
She looks happy.
Tasty, tasty.
You know, the dolphin fishing, we've been talking a lot about dolphin lately because they're still around and guys are finding them. And, you know, not a lot of big ones this time of year, but certainly plenty around. Birds are always key, you know, and debris. As we get into these months where we're getting storms down south of us, you're going to find floating debris, might be a cargo net, a log, a tree, a crate. You just never know. So be aware of what's floating in the birds, because they're going to tell you what's going on, and be ready. You know, I always tell people you can't rig your rods when you get in the middle of dolphin. So be ready to go. And live bait is a big help this time of year as well. And Captain Joe Hendricks with the Fearless boat out of Bud Mary's does a lot of dolphin fishing. A great captain out of Bud Mary's with this picture of his recent charter with their dolphin.
Whoa, he had a fair amount there, didn't he, big dog?
It looked good.
Let's go inshore.
You know, bone fishing this time of year is one of those things. A lot of guys, you know, fish for the bonefish still, and they come and go. You know, I wouldn't say that the bonefish are back. They've always been around, but they just don't show up every time you want to go looking for them. And right now, they have been around. Islamorada in the lower Keys, very good. Good reports, and you really want to find good moving water, again, is key. to finding these fish. Now, our bonefish don't tail like they used to, so they're going to be swimming, and a lot of times you need that sunlight to be able to see these fish in the water to get a cast to, and a live shrimp or a small crab's going to do the job for you, and you always want to get it ahead of them so that that scent will trickle down and they'll find it. Captain Donnie Benbow with Skins and Fins Charters out of the Lorelei sent me this picture of a few bonefish he caught a couple days ago.
Cool. All right, tell me about the snooks.
Snook fishing, well, as we know, opening day is September 1st, and it's still a pretty decent snook bite in the backcountry. Depends on if you're a shallow water guy, sight fishing, or if you're fishing the deeper waters in a bay boat like I have. I like a 3/8 ounce jig head with a pinfish. Works very good for me in about 4 to 8 feet of water. The guys up on top of the flats are throwing artificials, spoons, soft plastics, and that sort of thing, and doing pretty well. Once that water gets real hot, middle of the day, there's not a lot on top of the flats, but the mornings and the late afternoons have been really good. Captain Richard Black with Blackfly Charters out of Islamorada sent me this picture of his anglers, Pam and Jim, with a doubleheader they caught up in the shallow water.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. It's a great report. We're going to take your hot spots for the Florida Keys from here. Triple tail. Look for the fish floating in the dirty water, especially on the incoming tide along shorelines. Have your rod ready so you can approach them really quietly, and you want to cast right on their head because that water is a little dirty right now. Also, offshore yellowtails anchor in 60 to 80 feet of water. The current is always a plus, so start chumming and be patient. Wait till you see the fish before you actually start fishing.
You know, Jim, the R&R Tackle Southeast region is another great place to catch yellowtail snappers.
Yeah.
How's the fishing, Jimbo?
It's been pretty good. Hey, guys, everybody in the studio there. You know, we've got plenty of yellowtail here in the Southeast region, and the further south you go, the better the reef gets, and this is a great time to target those yellowtails, especially in the evenings. That's when they're going to bite the best. Now, the shallow reefs and patches hold lots of tails, but most of these are going to be on the small side. So we like to keep a little deeper water where the fish average from about 1 pound up to flags of 4 or more pounds. You want to look for hard bottom and 40 to 80 feet of water, and watch your depth machine for any signs of fish, and then anchor up and start chumming. You can also use some glass minnows with silver sides to sweeten up that chum mixture, and the more chum, the better. Now, I like to use a light spinning outfit, such as a Penn Spin Fisher 4500, loaded up with 12-pound line, and a 2-0 hook tied straight to the main line. If you're using a high-vis line, a light fluoro or clear mono leader will get you some bites. Bonita, squid, ballyhoo cut into small strips and drifted back in the chum is what generally works best, or small jig baited with one of those strips and drifted back into the chum. That's a great way to get them going if they're a little boat shy and staying down a little deep. Now, it might take some time, but occasionally those fish, they'll get chummed right up behind the boat on the surface, and you can just drop your bait and almost like cane pole them. Now, staying offshore, dolphin fishing in the past week has gotten a little bit better. It's been a little more consistent. Most of the fish are being caught on and around floating debris, and the bulk of that stuff floating has been roughly 6 to 12 miles offshore, but anywhere out there you find something floating, there's likely to be fish on it. There's also been birds working over a lot of these fish, and they've been eating trolled baits and lures. Once we locate those fish, we've been pitching live and cut baits to them, and most of the fish have been decent-sized schoolies in the 4 to 8 pound range, and there have been some larger fish mixed in. I got a photo here. This is a 40-pound bull caught by Dr. Alan Serer off Key Biscayne, and he was using a trolled ballyhoo around some big patches of weed. That's one of the biggest ones I've seen this season for the most part.
That's awesome. We sold motors to Alan a few years ago. I'm glad to see he's still using them, man. That's great.
Yep, the boat's still floating, nice and tender. Now moving inshore, we got snook season. It opened on the 1st. They've been biting off the oceanside beaches and also in the inlets of the whole region here. Off the beaches, the snook have been cruising those troughs that run parallel to the beaches early in the mornings. When that weather is calm, the snook can be sight fished with live baits, surface, and swimming lures, and even fly tackle. Now, any areas that have bait activity, those are going to be the most productive. Then in the inlets, early morning and then late in afternoons into the evenings has been best on the outgoing tide. You want to fish with live pinfish, herrings, or croakers, and you want to get them down on the bottom using a Jupiter rig. And if you don't have any live bait, you can try bouncing 1 to 2 ounce flare hawk jigs or soft plastics along the bottom, or even deep trolling deep diving lures. And then the permit fish has been really good off in South Biscayne Bay. And those permit, they prefer good weather just like us fishermen. So on the days with good visibility and stable weather, which means not having a lot of storms throughout the day, that's when those permit have been biting the best. Now, the permit fishing has been good around the Ragged Keys with fish in the 7 to 10 pound range. And then a little further south in the Caesars Creek to Angelfish Creek area, those fish have been a little bigger in the 15 to 20 pound range. You want to look for corally and hard bottom flats that have good tidal flow and fish with silver dollar size crabs and crab pattern flies.
That's an excellent report this week, Jimbo. Hopefully the guys and gals will get a chance to go out there and take advantage of some of that. We're going to take the hot spots for the southeast region from here. Jimbo says inshore, look for snook on all the inlets and off the beaches in early mornings and in the afternoons. They're eating both live and artificial baits right now. And offshore, cast live or cut baits to schoolie dolphin offshore around the floating debris that might have been kicked up from this latest storm that came through. Yeah.
Probably is. You know, when we return, we're going to be checking in with the Real Legends Southwest region. Plus, Dave and Randy are going to be sharing their yellowtail secrets, right, guys?
Yeah, we are. Unless, he gave them all away during that last report.
There's a few left.
one or two.
He's got more moves than a rattlesnake, Jack.
All right, we're here at the CCA workbench for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques. Got all that out. And Randy Tow's going to show us a little bit about how to catch a yellowtail snapper. He lives in the Islamorada, one of the best places in the world to catch them down there in the Keys. So he gets to do it a lot. So how do we go about it? What's our first thing that we need to look for?
Well, you got to start with an outfit, something like this, a light spinning rod. Not too light, because you want to be able to catch, bigger yellowtails if they bite, but something not to exceed about 12-pound test line.
Right.
So you get your rod. You want to have a chum cage like this, or chum bag, something that's going to hold plenty of chum.
Right.
Now this cage here holds a 7-pound block.
Right.
They make them 25 pounds.
Right.
So you're going to need a bigger chum bag.
So you'd have a whole bunch of 7s or a great big one for a 25, right?
Yeah, and it's not uncommon to go through 2 or 3 25-pound blocks when you're yellowtail, depending on the current and how fast they thaw and all of that.
Right.
But you see the openings in here, how much bigger they are than a chum bag.
Right.
And the secret to yellowtail fishing is feeding them. Because you're competing against the commercial boats. Commercial boats go out there with 100 pounds of chum to get started, and then they start fishing. So if you go out there with a little chum bag, you're not going to get their attention like you will if you have something a little bigger. And really, you want to get it going and catch them and get out of there, as quick as you can if they want to cooperate. Usually,
because they're going to get full.
Well, they're going to change their attitude, and they're going to stop biting, or the sharks are going to show up, or the barracuda's going to show up. Something's going to happen. But you get your chum. You get anchored down, you have moving water. Moving water is always key because it's moving your chum.
Mm-hmm. When we were there, we used oats as well for our chum, not only the frozen.
Right, so horse oats allow you to get the fish on the surface. A lot of people think you make a sand ball, you drop it to the bottom. You don't want to go to the bottom. You want them to come to you. You want to get them closer. When you throw those oats out, they love oats. They just gorge inside of that little scoop that you made, and it turns yellow. And the closer they are when that happens and you can cast, the better you're going to do, because you're eliminating that distance of them running to get eaten by something else.
Right.
So patience is key for doing that. You've got a couple scenarios. These jig heads work really good if the water's moving. You're trying to...
If you got a good current.
You're trying to simulate the chum coming out of this chum bag. You want your piece of bait doing the same thing.
Float at the same rate as
So
the
if it's
chum.
sinking too fast, it looks weird. If it's floating up here and your chum's going down, it looks weird. And I don't know how big their brain is, but they are really smart. And they can see. So it makes a big difference. So I'll be set up with my jig heads. I'll be set up with just a bear hook. Fresh cut bait always works the best for me, whether it's ballyhoo or catch a blue runner or something at the boat and cut him up, something fresh. And these fish bites, believe it or not, these fish bites work excellent as well, especially if they get finicky on biting. So those are some of the tips. I like to fish one rod. If they're biting, I'll hook a fish, we'll put another rod in the water. We'll just rotate kind of one at a time. And you'll be surprised how many you get that way. If you put 2 or 3 rods in the water, it'll push the fish back. You'll notice them being further back and further back, which means they're going to be harder to catch.
So how long of a cast are you trying to make, or are you dropping it and letting it drift? Are you making long casts?
You can't really drop it because you've got, remember, at the chum bag you've got blue runners, you got chubs, you got filefish, you got triggerfish. So you got all of these other fish around your chum bag, and the yellowtails are back here. So when you throw those oats and the yellowtails come up, that's really what you want to do, is try to get your bait right in the middle of them. And that really works the best if you can do it. If you don't have any of the other fish around your chum bag, then certainly just drop it down and let it go, just like a piece of chum.
Is there anything that you do to target the larger fish versus smaller ones, or?
Well, a lot of that stuff depends on the time of year. When they're spawning, they're bigger. If you go out with live bait, if you can use live pilchards, get some small live pilchards, that's going to yield bigger fish always.
Now, you told me earlier that in the wintertime the fish are in different places. In the summer, what's the deal there?
So the wintertime, when it gets cold, a lot of these fish aren't on the reef. They're on the patch reefs. And if you look on your Garmin GPS, for example, you'll see Hawks Channel that runs parallel to the Keys. Around Hawks Channel, give or take, maybe some a little bit inside off of Marathon, some outside off Islamorada. But those rocky little patches are great spots to catch yellowtails, mangrove snappers, groupers, stuff like that in the winter. They're not big, you hope they're keepers. A keeper's 12 inches, so hopefully they're more in that 16 to 18 inch range. And so you fish shallower, 35 to 45 feet, and then spring, summer, and as we get into this time of year, you get deeper, sometimes even 100 feet for some of those bigger ones.
I got you. How many are you allowed to keep?
I think 5.
5 apiece?
Yeah, I think it was 10. They changed it to 5.
I got you.
So that hasn't been my problem lately. So well, I've been really working pretty hard to get these things to cooperate, and I've been finding the earlier the better for me. And by 10, 11 o'clock, it's been tough to catch them.
Well, by 10 or 11 o'clock, it's pretty hot anyway, and it's time to go home for me usually anyway now.
When it's flat calm, which it's been for the last week or so, it just gets tough. It's stifling sometimes on that reef. Yeah. And you certainly want to do it.
It's that time of year. You got those dog days of summer.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. You guys can get out there to Hawks Key now and catch some of those yellowtails.
So, Jim, I really learned why I make some of the dumb mistakes I make, because now I know that my brain and the yellowtail's brain is about the same size. Some days I'm smart, and some days not so smart. But you know what? It is now time for the Real Legend Southwest region with our Captain Ron Houston. So, Ronnie, why don't you tell us what's going on midnight?
Well, the theme species over here with the yellowtail, they can be caught throughout the region, and you primarily want to target structure. But don't think you can't catch them by simply bottom fishing, maybe for some groupers or some snappers. But we want to target wrecks, artificial reefs, towers, ledges, and like Randy said, it's going to be involved chumming to attract numbers. And it's simply as just stopping at your local tackle shop and getting box chum. Or getting out early enough, sabiki up some cut herring. The fresher the bait, the better. Cut up white bait also. But then once you get the fish to a certain part of the wall or column, that's where the game begins. Your flat line, or maybe 1/8 ounce to 1/4 ounce jig head. You might have to use split shots. Some of the tackle involved would be anywhere from 1/0 to 3/0 trocar circle hooks. And when it comes to fluorocarbon, depending upon what type of structure you're fishing, your 20 to 40 pound fluorocarbon. And like Randy was saying, the fish are smart. I'd highly recommend going with the pink. You can use monofilament, but 15 to 30 pound braid. And when it comes to rods, depending upon what size these fish are, your medium heavy rods. I get to go out with some buddies of mine, and I'm simply using 4,000 series reels like the Penn Battles. And chumming just enough to keep the fish wanting to eat. And just about any cut baits once you get them chummed up, like squid. But the fresher the bait, the better. For the small cut baits going back would be your herrings, your pilchards, your shrimp. But also, like Randy said, you get out off early enough in the morning, there's plenty of white bait along the beaches. It really doesn't matter what size they are. You can use that 1/4 inch mesh net, catch you a bunch of live weight bait, and the quality of the fish size might just go up. And I got a prime example of a common-sized yellowtail caught in the region, and it's fun to do with the kids. Simply still on the offshore side, the red groupers. I've been talking about it, and it's still been great. Gordon's past the Sanibel. The bite remains consistent, still in that 75 to 100 foot range, concentrating on hard bottom. especially on those moderate weather days with quality fish. Now, some days it might take some work, but the key points I'm telling you have been you got to fish that good moving water. Bait has to be on the bottom, and circle hooks. You know, you got the circle hooks, you're not jerking, just wait for the tip of the rod to start moving before you reel. Also, here again, your fresher cut baits for them groupers once you get into them, like herring, sardines, and cigar minnows. Even simple live pinfish and cut pinfish, as well as live herring, grunts. But for those days, the live baits might work a little better, especially when the current's moving slow. I got a prime example of consistent groupers caught in the region. With the opening snook season right now in the southern end of the region, from Gordon's Pass to the south, there have been some mornings here in the last week. It really seems like it's been early fall, like an early September fall, which is kind of odd. There's a lot of bait showing up right now from Marco south along the outer Gulf Island. Now, you want to look where the areas are for the diving birds and your harder rock bottom areas with good current. Now, I've been finding snook schooling up by simply fan casting topwater plugs, like the new Berkley Jaywalker 120 with the match and the hatch lifelike colors, especially that pilchard. That pilchard's probably my favorite topwater right now, along with the mullet, but also second go-to is going to be that bone. That's also been working well. Now, the best tides have been the last of the outgoing to the first half of the incoming. You can also fan cast half-ounce gold spoons, live pilchards, or cut mullet and ladyfish and knocker rigs are also catching fish further south. But throwing the top waters has been good, especially for finding them. And with the tides I've mentioned, they're not going to be near the bushes. So throwing them top waters fan casting will get you some nice fish. There's a nice oversized snook caught up in the northern end of the region while fishing with Captain Danny Latham. The last species is going to be the redfish. Captain Danny Latham to the north reports. Fish right now are really schooling up. And a lot of fish right now around the passes and the deeper edges from Sanibel La Boca. Some smaller groups are still along the west wall and the east wall, but from Marco south, like I said, it's been like fall here the last couple mornings early. The fish are also schooling up in the outside points, and here again, I'm using the top water plugs for the long distance casting. Berkley Hijackers and the Jaywalkers, but the Jaywalker 120 still seems to be my favorite in that pilchard at the moment. But right now with the redfish, they bite different than the snook. A lot of times they'll miss that plug, so I'm dropping back with the Cutter 90s in black, also in silver clown. But I got a new bait here in the last 2 weeks for those redfish that want to miss the top waters. A new color, the Bass Assassin Laguna Shrimp, excellent color. Sea shad on a quarter-ounce jig head. Now the reds are really bunching up. You can also use live pilchards, cut baits on the bottom, also gold spoons. And I got a prime example of a nice schooling redfish up in the northern end of the region caught with Danny Latham. My hearts and prayers go out for all those guys up in Louisiana. Say a prayer for all those competitors we used to fish with, Rick. Weather looks good for the weather we got over the weekend, so get out. Snook season opens down south. Get out and catch and keep your snook.
That sounds like a good plan.
That's for sure. And thanks, Captain Ron. Here's the Caddy Can hotspots for the Southwest region. Trout near Cape Hayes, Jug Creek, York, and Chino Key. Look for diving birds and bait. Trout should not be hard to find on your inshore. And then offshore, Cobia, Naples to Sanibel Wrecks, towers, artificial reefs. You want to use some large live baits or artificial eels, and the 5 to 10 inch swim baits. Even a big old 10-inch swim bait, Rick.
Yeah, you're
good
absolutely
stuff.
right.
Good stuff.
You know, this Real Legend stuff's some pretty good stuff, and they got a little gear contest going on. Why don't you tell the people about it?
Oh, yeah. You know, this stuff is perfect. And right now, through September 7th, get men's Real Legends graphic tees for only $12.99. Go to reallegends.com for more information and deals. And speaking of Real Legends, we have a trivia question this week. Now, are you guys and gals ready for this? Guess what? We want to know, what is a yellowtail group called? So yellowtail live in groups. What are those things called? Visit the Real Legends Facebook page every Friday to answer the question of the week. One winner who leaves the correct answer will win a Real Legends gift card. So good luck to you guys and gals out there.
That's good stuff, bud.
Good stuff.
I appreciate that. Hey, when we return the Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're talking to the Fish Bites East region, and then we're going to go north to the Garmin Panhandle region. So don't go anywhere. Joining me now is Steve Wolf from Berkley Fishing. You know, Steve, at ICAST, we introduced a lot of cool stuff for 2022, so why don't we tell everybody about it?
Definitely. Really excited to be here and introduce several bass baits that you might be familiar with that we're carrying over to the inshore market. So a lot of topwater products we're going to show you here today. We're going to start off with our Chapo. So you'll see it in a 105 and then the 120 like you have there. And just like every one of the other baits you're going to see here, we beefed up all the hardware with stainless steel hook hangers, Fusion 19 treble hooks. And in this case, you'll see it's just got amazing topwater action. You can work that with a steady retrieve. You can also finesse it in with just little pops. Very versatile bait.
I think that that's going to be a great bait for the redfish, certainly throughout the Gulf Coast. And then obviously it's going to be really good for trout.
Absolutely.
And I think a snook is going to be fooled by it as well.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the next category.
Sure. So you've got the hijacker, tail weighted so you can cast it a mile. It's got a 3-hook configuration on it. It comes in a 100 size. You'll see the hook hanger is a little bit lower on the front, so it's going to ride up a little higher in the front, give a real good walk the dog action.
All right, speaking of walk the dog, this is our star for certainly Berkeley.
Definitely the star. The Jaywalker available in 100, also in a 120, which has a 3-hook configuration. Great top water walk the dog action on this in 10 saltwater specific colors, just as the others are as well.
Nice. All right, then also for those guys that like to pop, like Dave Farrell's a chugging type of guy. He loves a cane walker.
Absolutely. This is a very unique bait for the inshore market, familiar with it in the bass market. You can pop it, it'll walk the dog, and you can cast that a long distance.
So for saltwater, what size is? Just this
That's
one
a
size?
125. We're using a 125.
I see tunas eating this in the Gulf as well.
It looks like a popper, big offshore
ballyhoo.
popper.
Yeah, ballyhoo or cigar minnow of some sort.
Yep.
Now we also have the Magic Swimmer and the Vibrato spoons. Tell us a little bit about these.
Absolutely. So everything you've seen so far is really for top water. These you're going to see cover the whole water column. So the Magic Swimmer you're very familiar with. We've got them in smaller sizes up to the 228 that you're holding right there. You control that if you want. Catch a muskie on it if you want. Catch it, catch a shark, whatever the case may be.
Kingfish for sure.
Kingfish.
Florida.
And then the Vibrato, great jigging lure. Definitely a lot more popular. Take that to the jetty and jig along the rocks.
Now guys, don't be fooled. These look like there's some big lures here, but obviously in the Magic Swimmer, we also have them all the way down to a little sneaky, skitty fish size.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All of them rigged with the Fusion.
Fusion 19 hooks, you're going to see we have those treble hooks from number 6 up to a 1/0 available in the resealable clam package that we have here.
If we got any questions, where can we see and find this stuff?
So you can always go to berkeleyfishing.com.
Right.
You can also go to your local tackle shop.
All right. Well, good job over here, bud. You've earned your keep. All right, so let's talk a little bit about where we're headed next. The Fish Bites East region ranges from Sebastian south to Lake Worth. Our expert there is Captain Mike Holliday. Hollywood, tell me about the bite, bud.
You know what, Rick? You can catch yellowtail throughout the whole region, but by far the most consistent yellowtail action is going to take place on the reefs in 55 to 110 feet of water off Palm Beach County. Now, you can catch them consistently all the way up through Martin County and then, intermittently in St. Lucie County. They're a schooling fish and respond super well to chum as long as you have a good north current. If you have no current or a south current, those are the kiss of death for snapper fishing in my region. The majority of yellowtail anglers will anchor up and chum liberally with everything from chum balls to ground chum to glass minnows, and then drift back a bait on 10 to 20 pound fluorocarbon leader and a small chartreuse jig head. Some of the anglers like to fish them on the standard knocker rig with a double hooked sardine or cigar minnow. And you can also catch yellowtails just drift in the reefs with a double hook chicken rig and a chunk of squid or a ballyhoo. The average yellowtail in my region is going to be 1 to 2 pounds. And I have a photo there. That's Peter Weidinger with a nice yellowtail. He caught that fish in 65 feet of water on a sardine. That fish was taken with Captain Jonathan Earhart of Chaos Fishing Adventures. Now, the other bite that we got going on that's pretty consistent is a Kingfish Bite, and that's taking place on the 6 and 8 mile reefs, the Loran Tower Ledge, and the edge of the reef in 110 feet of water off Jupiter, and also on the offshore bar in Fort Pierce. On those west wind days, which we'll have all the way through the weekend, the fish are on the beach. The Kingfish Hole, the Vero Cove, and the Sand Pile are yielding some really nice fish on the west winds, and they have earlier this week. Right now, anywhere that's holding concentrations of bait fish are holding kings, including a lot of the artificial reefs throughout Palm Beach County. Targeted fish with a live Spanish sardine or a threadfin or a pilchard. You can slow troll it on a number 4 wire stinger rig, or you can drift with a live or dead sardine on a triple hook monofilament Palm Beach rig and do really well. On the beach, A live mullet or blue runner is going to get that bite from those big smokers. And the average king of my region is like 5 to 15 pounds with fish to 30 pounds or more. Not the giant smokers we see in the spring, but there are some nice fish on the beach right now.
That's good to hear, Mike. Tell us about what's happening inshore, bud.
Well, snook season up for harvest yesterday. We saw a lot of overslot fish caught. The new moon is Tuesday, so we should see the last push of spawning fish into the inlets this weekend. And at the same time, there's a lot of fish on the beach in places like the Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham Beach, and in Jensen Beach and South Beach and Fort Pierce. The Lake Worth and Juneau Piers had really good opening day snook bites yesterday. A lot of overslot fish in the mix. The spillways are also running hard and have a lot of overslot fish all the way throughout my whole region. So it's going to be a strong snook bite throughout the region going, probably for the next couple of weeks. Around the inlets and piers, live croakers, threadfin sardines, and pilchards are the top baits. You can either free line them or fish them on a slip sinker rig. If we get a little push of finger mullet, you can cast in a school of mullet, throw them back out on a jig head just to get them down. But, on the beach, soft plastics like the saltwater sass and sea shad in that blue mackerel or gray ghost color, it's going to work really well in the surf, as well as live mullet. At the spillways, the larger 7 to 10 inch soft plastic shads on a 1 ounce jig head is going to be money on those fish. Swimming plugs will catch a good amount of them as well. Average snook's going to be 6 to 20 pounds right now. I have a photo of a nice snook. It's an over the slot fish. Elizabeth Willard caught that fish. It was just over the slot. She caught that St. Lucie Inlet on live threadfin. The other inshore bite we got, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen this kind of ramping up of the tarpon fishing in the Indian River, as well as in all the inlets in my region. There's been a big push of juvenile pilchards and juvenile sardines around the Jensen Beach Causeway and the Stewart Causeway. The tarpon are all over those fish at night and then during the daytime on the outgoing tide. There's also a good concentration of fish in the mouth of Big Mud Creek up in St. Lucie County, and also at the Boy Scout camp in the Loxahatchee River, and also a good amount of big fish around the Fort Pierce Turning Basin. Target the fish with live pilchards, crabs, or mullet. At night on the bridges, you can throw topwater plugs or swimming plugs, or put a live mullet out on a 5.0 to 9.0 trocar circle hook. In the inlets, a live mullet drifted with the outgoing tide is money on those fish, but you'll also get them on swimming plugs and big jigs, particularly at night. Average tarpon in my region is going to be anywhere from 20 to 50 pounds, but plenty of fish over 100 pounds in the mix right now.
All right, Mike, you got to tell us about the bass report. Go ahead.
Well, the bass bite on the Toho Kissimmee chain remains pretty strong, although the dawn schooling bite's kind of getting a little bit shorter, not as many fish. I was talking to Captain Steve Niemiller of BassOnline.com. He's saying the best bites are taking place out in the middle of the lake, kind of offshore and away from the shorelines, in 4 to 6 feet of water over the shell beds, or also around the open holes in the hydrilla, or around the peppergrass bed. Seems like a lot of bass are migrating to peppergrass right now. The fish are schooled up, so be on the water before the sun comes up. Listen for fish busting or look for birds diving, and you can throw either a topwater plug, a white spinnerbait with a gold willow leaf blade, or an alewife or smoking shad colored Bass Assassin vapor shad. Anything that looks like a shad, that's what they're going to be feeding on. As the sun gets up, the fish are going to move into the grass, get away from that shad bite, and you can flip or pitch the hydrilla with a June bug colored punch craw, or you can work a Carolina rigged worm on the shell beds and do pretty well, work it kind of slow. Most of the guys are using live shiners right now and fishing them on corks to keep the baits off the bottom and just working the edges of the peppergrass, catching 20 or 30 fish a morning. Most of the fish are, in that 1 to 3 pound range with fish up to 6 pounds.
Hollywood, man, you really laid out the info tonight. That bass report could have been a superstar in our Texas show.
I had a lot to get in, man.
Yeah, you did. Great job. Thank you so much. Jim's going to go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots for the East region.
Yeah. What you guys want to know for inshore? Obviously, snook, tarpon, and some flounder. Mike talked about the first two, but the third one's okay. South Jetty at Fort Pierce seems to be a great place to find them. The R&R flare hawks, assassin gray ghost shads, and live pilchards are what you're going to catch them on. And then offshore, mangrove snapper. You want to look for those in 65 to 75 feet of water off Jensen Beach. You want to use Spanish sardines, cigar minnows, or ballyhoo plugs. All of those are great for fresh in particular. You cut them into plugs. Oh,
it sounds like a bite to me. Say, guys, if you fish from Port St. Joe northwest to the Alabama line, then listen up. The Garmin Panhandle region with Captain Pat Deneen is our next stop. Give us your report, Pat.
Hey, Rick, we don't have yellowtail snappers, but, the closest thing we have is vermilion snappers, and we call them mingo snappers locally. And the mingo snapper's been fishing all summer really good off our offshore waters. We're catching them on natural and artificial bottom structure in 100 to 150 feet of water, using 2-hook chicken rigs with 1 to 2 watt hooks baited with cut bait. Small pilchards are also a great bait, as is a live or fresh shrimp. Either fish on a chicken rig or on a Carolina rig. Most of the mingos are in that 12 to 15 inch range, but sometimes, especially in the deeper water, 3 to 4 pounders are common. In my opinion, they are the tastiest of our Gulf-side snappers and pretty much the closest thing we have to yellowtail snappers. Staying offshore, as everyone's aware, Hurricane Ida paid the northern Gulf a visit this week, and it really made for some rough conditions for really the last 7 days and still going on. So offshore fishing pretty much didn't happen, and the folks in Louisiana took a pretty good licking. But with that being said, before the weather walked in, sword fishing was good, and I suspect it will be good afterwards. Captain Alan Staples on 100 proof out of Destin, he fished before the weather and caught a monster 440-pound, 110-inch swordfish, a really big one. Alan caught that fish at night, but daytime sword fishing has also been very productive. The preferred depth are 1,300 to 1,600 feet. Squids, bonito strip baits, dolphin bellies are the baits of choice. Daytime fish baits near the bottom, we use a piece of rebar as a sacrificial weight, attaching it to the hook on the bait with a copper wire shepherd's hook type of situation. When the bait hits the bottom, you lose the rebar, another lead, and a light is placed well above the bait on the leader. At night, stagger your baits at varying depths, and there's a photo sent in by Captain Chris Kirby on the backlash out of Destin with the daytime swordfish caught last week. Derek Beamer out of Colorado caught this bucket list fish, and he hand cranked it up from 1,500 feet. That's a lot of cranking right there.
That's a man after my own heart. It's the only way to go, man. 1-to-1, baby. All right, tell me about the scallops. I see we're going scalloping inshore.
Yeah, Rick, moving inshore, the scallop season is wide open in St. Joe Bay, and the scallops are really good this year. You're going to find them in the grass and potholes of St. Joe Bay at the southern end down near Black's Island. Extreme low tide, you can walk around and pick them up like Easter eggs, but more commonly you're going to be snorkeling in 3 to 5 foot of water. Pay attention to bag limits because chances are you're going to be checked. I like to fish to look at those potholes, look at those edges of the potholes. But get on the water early, do some fishing. That St. Joe Bay is really good for fishing. Scallop midday when the sun is high, and then fish early and late. And there's a picture of Scott Burrell of Baker with a nice speckled trout he caught while scalloping Port St. Joe. Scalloping, fish in the morning, scalloping midday, fish in the afternoon.
All right.
And then finally, there's a mixed bag. A lot of schools of these red minnows, as we call them. They're really small, reddish-colored anchovy-like baits. They're like fry baits. They move it into our bays. The redfish, the bluefish, the ladyfish, the speckled trout, sharks are all feeding on them. In the deeper inlets like St. Andrews, you're also going to find some bonitas feed on them. But mash the hatch with similarly colored bass assassin sea shad baits. Let your bait sink below the bait schools and work them slower for the redfish and the trout. If you want to catch the other guys, speed it up a bit.
Thanks, Captain Pat. Here's the Blue Water Outrigger hotspots for the Panhandle region. Captain Pat says inshore, St. Joseph's Bay, speckled trout early and late. Get your scallops during the middle of the day. And then offshore, the Hurricane Ida shuffled those cards. Get those Yamahas out there and burn some fuel through them, and you can see you can try and find something out there. That's the thing. Shuffling the deck like that,
yep.
I mean,
you're absolutely right.
The thing about it is, though, Rick, you never know what's going to come up.
I know.
Those surprises are awesome sometimes.
Absolutely right. Yellowtail snappers, they are tasty, and they can be entered in the Power Pole Conservation Division of the Star Competition presented by Yamaha. The competition ends on Monday, Labor Day, so if you are fishing this weekend, there's still some time to win. Nearly $500,000 in prizes and scholarships you will be awarded on October 9th during the Star Award Ceremony presented by Discover Crystal River. Everyone's invited. Tickets are only $55 and include dinner, unlimited drinks, entertainment, and swag bags. So if you're interested in doing this, go to ccaflstar.com for more details. Now, you know, Jim, it is time for a short break, thank goodness. It's here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, but when we return, we're going to the Northeast region, and Dave will talk new products over at the CCA Workbench. What you got, Dave?
Well, we got Penn reels. We got Ben coming in here from Penn, and he's going to tell us all about the Penn battles and the difference between all these Battle 3s here.
Cool. Can't wait.
Well, Dave, we're back at the CCA Workbench for the Taco Marine new product segment of the show.
Yes, we are.
This is some great looking stuff.
Yeah, you know, Reel Legends, you know, they make great stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about the long sleeve Real Tech men's shirt first.
Let me see that thing.
Really cool shirt. This is the black tip one. Artwork by Lena Szymanski. Very nice. You know, always want a long sleeve shirt to cover up with. You know, make sure the sun's not touching your skin. It's got quick dry and moisture wicking, UPF 40, and really cool art design by
Super
Lena on there.
lightweight.
Yeah, really cool. Next, we got the ladies' top and bottom, and that's the Real Tech top. And again, it's got long sleeves. It's got these really cool accents on the sleeves as well. You know, for the ladies there.
Kind of
draw
it up a little bit.
Pattern in there in the fabric as well that you can barely see. And also, it's got the ladies' woven skirt, which also has the moisture wicking and the quick dry and the UPF 50, and it's also snag resistant. So, you know, if you're out there walking around in the boat and coming by the lures or stuff, it won't pull little hairs out of your garment, as it were.
Great stuff. You know, guys can get those, girls can get these.
Correct.
You know, hey.
Real Legends.
And
Great
I'll tell you
stuff.
what, stop at Bell's, check out the Real Legends product. You know, the other thing that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking with Ben Joyce from
Come on in
Penn
here,
Reels.
Ben. Talk a little bit about these Penn Battle 3s.
How you guys doing?
Appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me.
We got 3 different Penn battles up there. Tell us a little bit about them and what makes them different.
Absolutely. Well, first off, fried is the only way to go when you're talking yellowtail.
That's
right. You are. When we're talking yellowtail, I mean, most of the time you're catching them, they're 2-4 pounds, somewhere in that range.
Right.
So you don't really need that strong of a drag, of a reel to be able to catch them, but it's those fish that you're not meaning to catch that can really screw your day
surprise
up.
grouper or whatever.
Yeah, you let that bait
snapper
you let that bait slip back in the chum slick, and all of a sudden you're into a shark, and it can ruin your day if you don't have the right equipment. So when we're talking about the battles, you can see there's 3 of them that we have here. Traditional Penn black and gold that we have here. This is the standard range that we have. These run all the way from a 1,000 to a 10,000 size. Really, I mean, when we're talking yellowtail, you're talking those 3,000 and 4,000s.
Right.
These red ones that we have here, we have high-speed models. So if you have a technique that you're doing where you want a little extra giddy up in there, an extra 6-7 inches per turn, you can use these. And then the silver ones, we have the DX line. So these are actually dealer exclusive. So you can only find them at your local retailer. You're not going to find them online or anything like that. So what makes these reels great for what we're talking about tonight? Like I said, you kind of want to have a little foolproof protection in those reels to be able to make sure that it's going to last today and tomorrow.
Right.
So we have a full metal body. So it's not only the body, but it's also the side plate on here as well. So it's full aluminum. Inside, the big thing with these reels is we introduced our CNC gear technology for the first time in this price point.
Okay.
So they're all individually cut, made out of aluminum on the small sizes, brass on the big sizes. So it's the same type of gearing that you're going to find on spin fishers and slammers and all of our other high-end spinning reels. And then in the top, we have our HT100 drag system. Drag system that's been around for years. It's proven.
Caught a lot of big blue marlins.
Yes, absolutely. Years ago, it was used in the internationals. Now that's switched a little bit, but most of our spinning reels use this drag material, and it's proven. So overall, I mean, there's really a real option here for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're yellowtail fishing or mahi fishing, whatever. Like I said, you have the full range. And then when you go over to the DX line, there's a couple small differences that make these reels a little bit special. So these reels here have a 5+1 bearing system, fully sealed bearings. The reels aren't sealed, but the bearings themselves are.
All right.
This one goes up to a 6+1, so you get an additional bearing in the spool, and then all the sizes use a brass gearing. So same gear train that you have on the slammers that we have out there today.
So what you've basically done is you've taken all of your high-end technology and you've brought it down into a more affordable package, because with the aluminum housing, aluminum side plate, and the gears cut the way they are, and the material they're made of, you have a solid, really solid built reel with no deflections, no tweaking or bending of anything. It's going to be a rock solid reel for Joe Average to be able to get out there and still catch some really big fish for a long time.
Yeah, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is maximum durability for the dollar that the hardworking people are putting out there. These reels start at $109. So
awesome.
I mean, the
Great
thing with
price
Yellowtail is everybody can get out there. You don't need special equipment. You can go out in a small little bay boat or a skiff and you can catch them. So
well, great job, Ben. How does somebody find out more information about these? Or local dealers obviously are going to have them soon, right?
Yep. Local dealers actually have them right now. So you can visit all the local authorized pen retailers, or if you're just looking for more information, you can visit us at penfishing.com.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, get out there and check them out. We're going to go see what Rick's got going for the next region. So take it away, Rick.
Yep, penfishing.com. That's where I'd like to live for sure. Alvy Reels Northeast region is up. Our Captain Tommy Derringer is standing by with the 411. Hey, Tommy, how's the fishing?
Hey, Rick, it's always good, man. You know, here in the Alvy Sidecast Reels Northeast region, you know, we really don't have the yellowtail fishery that some of the southern regions have, but you know what? The ones we do catch, sometimes they're really big. In fact, most of the yellowtails we catch up here are in that, 7 to 8 pound range, even some bigger ones. Most of those big yellowtails are caught during our cooler months, but they can catch them year round, usually while fishing for our other snapper species. Right now, we do have a really good mangrove and mutton snapper bite happening in the region. I spoke to Captain Jason Hadges from jhookfishingcharters.com, and he tells me he's still been chumming those mangoes up in 120 to about 140 feet. Now, there are also some big mutton snapper in that mix as well. And Jason said leading up to this new moon that we have in a few days, it's still going to be pretty good with chumming them up and the schooled up mangoes. But, overall, those mangoes are slowing down just a little bit from earlier in the summer. Now, that being said, there's still some really big ones hanging out. And Captain Jason did report that there's an occasional big yellowtail mixed in there as well. If you give it a go, you might just get lucky and hook into one of those big yellowtails. And speaking of those guys, I've got a photo here. This is the man himself, Captain Jason Hadges. I talk about him all the time, with a huge yellowtail that he caught recently offshore of St. Augustine on his boat, the J-Hook.
Oh, big old flag.
Also offshore, I'm just going to mention it quick again this week. Seems like I talk about them a lot, but that's what's going on this time of year. The Kingfish, all the offshore guys I talked to this week said those Kingfish are still going strong, both on the nearshore and offshore reefs. And, if you're out there fishing and the snapper fishing isn't that good, they've been doing some slow trolling with both some live and dead baits, and you're going to really get into some nice Kingfish pretty consistently right now. That bite should continue. Guys, as long as it stays warm, those Kingfish are going to stick around, and I don't see any signs of it cooling down anytime soon. Now, moving inshore, we've had some big bull redfish showing up throughout the region over the last week or so. I think we're only going to see more of them, and they're going to be in bigger groups as we head towards this new moon. They're going to start to spawn. The usual areas like the bridges, the inlets, and the deeper edges of the channel up there in the St. Johns River near Mayport, those are all going to be great places to find some of those big fish. You're going to want to fish the bottom with a 4 to 6/0 Eagle Claw circle hook with enough weight to hold in the current. Now, favorite baits are always going to be a halved blue crab, a live or a cut piece of mullet, and a cut ladyfish is also a really great bait if you can find them. Now, a few things you really need to be prepared for when you're fishing for those breeders is make sure you know how to properly handle them and how to properly release them. Try not to have them out of the water that long. And whatever you do, don't hold them vertical from one of those lipper-type devices while you got them out of the water. Just support their bellies, get them back in the water as quick as you can. If you're fishing deeper water, make sure you have a venting tool ready. Make sure you know how to use that thing. And take good care of them, guys, because they're going to take great care of us by making lots of babies. And those bull reds, they're going to hang around pretty good here for the next couple of months. So get out there and catch them. And I've got a picture here. My brother, Captain Todd Derringer from InshoreAdventures.net, sent me this picture of his client Al and one of those giant bull redfish we have moving around right now.
Wow.
Big bulls.
Now also inshore, guys, the snook. Not the most popular fish in our region, but you know what? The start of our mullet run has just started to trickle in and it's a great time of year if you're going to target snook in my region. They love to feed on the large schools of finger mullet that have been showing up, a little bit more every week. It seems like there's more and more of those little mullet. Now, there's been a few decent snook actually caught at the St. Augustine Inlet this week, but if you're really looking to target them, heading to the south end of the region is probably going to be your best bet. From Palm Coast down through Daytona, the snook, they've been getting fired up. The docks along the ICW, especially the ones with the bait schools hanging out underneath them, that's going to be a good bet as long as that tide is moving. The canals and the bridges, they're also holding good numbers, and those seem to be best right before dark and at night, or right first thing in the morning, low light. Tomoka is also going to be a good bet as those bait schools funnel their way south down through that area. Now, a topwater plug like the Berkeley Hijacker, that's going to be really great during those low light conditions. And then I like the saltwater assassin jerk shad in white during the brighter times of the day. And I've got one last picture here. My buddy Captain Chris Herrera sent me this picture of Emmanuel Morales with a nice Northeast Florida snook that he caught on that saltwater assassin jerk shad.
Those assassins catch snook no matter where you are.
You're absolutely right.
Thanks, Tommy. We're going to take your strike zone hot spots for the Northeast region from here. Tommy says, inshore, you want to check out the bull redfish at all the area bridges, inlets, and channel edges in the St. Johns River. And then offshore, you want to make sure that you're checking out that mixed bag of snappers in 120 to 140 foot reefs. Kingfish are on the nearshore reefs throughout the region as well, so don't forget about them. And here's your weekly reminder about this awesome 1952 Chevy 3100 that Rick has donated. I'll tell you what, if you guys and gals haven't got your raffle tickets for this, get to ccaflorida.org//hot rod. That's ccaflorida.org/hot rod. The winner's going to be chosen at the end of September, and you will be out of a truck, and hopefully I'll be the winner.
I hope you do win. So guys, if you live on the west coast of Florida, then stay tuned. Our Discover Crystal River Northwest region and the Startron Central West region will be reporting when we come back here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Welcome back. It's time for the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, Apalachicola, south to Tampa Bay. Now, Jeff Hageman, he's out tonight, but filling in for him is big man, Captain Mike Anderson. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, guys. How are y'all? Appreciate the opportunity.
That's right. Good. Let's go.
Doing good.
So, Yellowtail Snapper are one of my favorites to eat. There's not much better than a whole fried yellowtail. We actually have a great Yellowtail Snapper fishery in the southern part of our region here. Most fish are in depths from 60 to 120 foot of water or so over major structure like wrecks or pipeline connections or hard bottom. All the techniques that work in the south part of Florida work well here as well, anchoring up tight of the structures or the hard bottom and chumming with a chum bag, rolled oats, or dried chum mix, cut sardines, or a mixture of these will help get them off the bottom and bring them up in the water column, and that makes it a lot easier to catch them as well because we got a Goliath grouper, barracuda, and shark problem here, so we want to try to get those fish up in the column and get them to the boat as fast as possible. Our fish average a little bigger than in the south. Fish from 1.5 to 3 pounds is the average size, with some running a little bigger. You need to start with a 10 to 12 pound mono with as small a hook as you can get away with. If you tip that hook with a cut of shrimp or cut sardine, that works really well free-lined into the tide. Offshore, Captain Rob Davenport of Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete reports the Gag Grouper bite remains strong throughout the region with summer in full force. Look a little deeper for cooler bottom temps that will pay off. 90 to 250 foot range has been holding good fish over rock piles and ledges. Standard bottom rigs with 100 to 150 pound fluorocarbon leaders and 8 to 12 ounce egg sinkers depending on the current. You need a 7-aught to 12-aught circle hook depending on the bait size. Start off with cut bait, cut sardines, or cut fed fins to get the fish fired up. When the bite slows down a little bit, you can fire down those live pinfish and live pigfish. That'll keep the bite going.
All right, let's go inshore.
Here.
Oh, yeah, tell me about the photo. My bad.
No, you're okay. We got a great photo here of a nice Gag Grouper from a recent trip with Captain Rob Davenport.
All right, now go ahead and tell me about inshore redfish.
I got you. On the inshore scene here, Captain Jason Lineberger of Ruthless Fishing Charters out of Tampa Bay reports a really good redfish bite in the middle of the bay. Lots of overslot fish being caught in the beginning of the outgoing tide on cut and live bait. We've also got Captain Jim Pollard of Big Daddy Fishing Charters out of St. Pete reporting a good redfish bite as well in the potholes and mangrove shorelines with good overhanging mangroves and oyster bars. He's also using cut and live bait to entice them out of the overhanging branches, get those fish out where you can catch them. Up there in Crystal River, Captain Mario Costello of Talltail Charters, fishing out of the plantation on Crystal River, reports really big schools of redfish on the mangrove shorelines of Crystal River. Those schools have anywhere from a dozen to nearly 100 fish in each school, and they're seeing multiple schools of fish every day. They're working the creeks and the cuts just past the low tides. He's using both mud minnows and live select shrimp free-lined on a 4/0 circle hook.
All right, tell us about the snook, bub. Yeah, go ahead.
I got you. The snook bite remains strong on the strongest part of the tide, both incoming and outgoing. Look for fish along the beaches and passes from the southern part of my region up to Anclote and the outer mangrove points and Berry Islands up to Crystal River. Live pinfish and sardines have both been working well for the baits.
Mikey did a great job filling in. Tell us about this photo here, bub.
Well, it's just a fish that I caught some of my clients here the last couple of days on one of my charters, and the snook bite's been really, really good here in this region. So, enjoy the fishing. This region's red hot.
Well,
thanks, Mike.
Not only, Jim, is he a TV show host and he's a radio show host, he's also a good fishing guide. How about that?
Imagine that.
And now he may be taking over Hag's region.
Oh.
Thanks, big man. We appreciate you very much.
Yep. I'm going to take your Ozello Keys Marina hot spots for the Northwest region from here. Redfish on the top of the tide, cut ladyfish, live sardines, and pinfish have been working well. And then offshore, Gag Grouper bite has been pretty consistent in 90 to 250 feet of water. You want to fish over the rock piles and ledges, of course, and pinfish on a standard bottom rig are the bait of choice.
You know, Jim, we all know that the StarTron Central West region is my home away from home, and my redfish partner there is Captain Jeffrey Page. Hey, Page, how's the yellowtail fishing in the Central West region?
It's funny that you should ask, because it really is good, and this time of year is probably when it is at its best in the StarTron Central West region. You know, and it all starts, I know everybody's already covered a lot of it, but it starts with having a good mixture of chum. You know, a lot of guys like prefabricated chum. A lot of guys like to cut up their own chum. Most of the captains I talk to like to definitely cut up chunks of pilchards or thread fins along with chum blocks. And 80 to 100 feet seems like good starting point. You're going to want to look for ledges. Captain Chris Seeger says the D reefs are real good in our region, and what they like to do is put a chunk, once they get the fish fired up, put a chunk on a 1/4 ounce jig head or a chicken rig. Either way, you're going to catch your limit, no problem this time of year. And a light leader, 20 to 30 pound fluoro will get the job done. I've got a couple photos tonight of two real good, successful trips aboard Captain Tim No's Gulf Coast Offshore Ventures, where he limited out 2 days in a row with the yellowtails.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Appreciate those pictures, Paige. All right, what else you got for us offshore?
Gag Grouper, you know what? That's been really, really good these past couple weeks, mainly because our seas have been down and guys have been able to get out to their favorite hard bottom areas, ledges, wrecks, you know, secret rock piles, whatever it is. Guys are going out and in as close as, 60, 70 feet of water. But again, 100 feet on out, you're going to get your bigger fish. And it's not uncommon. You want to bring live pinfish, live squirrelfish, live thread fins, and some pilchards, along with a couple boxes of frozen sardines, and you're going to get the job done. And I have got a really big gag photo tonight from my good friend, the Flying Hawaiian, Kalen Olayer, down out of Stump Pass Marina.
All right, let's move inshore, bub.
Like I said last week, and I think the week before, and I know the big man just touched on it, the red fishing keeps getting better and better, and I believe a lot of that is due to proper conservation. You know, I got reports down in Charlotte Harbor on the east side and the west side around the oyster bars in Bull and Turtle Bay. And then in the north area, it's funny, we got Mike filling in for Hag because Captain Mike Anderson and Captain Brett Norris both have been not limiting out, but catching lots of big redfish around that Fort DeSoto area, around those islands. And they've all been fishing that top of the tide for that first hour of outgoing. You can use cut bait, you can use live bait, and you can also use just that good old Johnson 1/4 ounce spoon, the weedless minnow they call it. And then I also like to throw that Berkeley Jaywalker in the chrome pattern when the fish are really humped up and maybe going away from you. You can get a lot further cast with that Jaywalker, and they're going to hit it because it's a competitive thing when you've got fish in those numbers. So anyway, I got 2 picks tonight, but it all ties into one trip. The first one is Austin and Jake Glunk, the Glunk brothers, and then the second one is their sidekick, Frankie Lippert. And I'm going to tell you what, those guys are hard-working guys that get to go out only on the weekends, and they pretty much wade and throw topwater. And you're not going to find a better topwater guys than those 3.
All right, tell us about the trout, bub.
Well, you know about my trout fishing. When the schools start showing up on the deeper grass flats, it really gets good because you're not going to spook the fish off, and you can take kids out there, Rick. It's really cool. And this time of year, you can rig up a popping cork and put a light jig head with like a hammer time shrimp, fish bite shrimp under it, and you just have those kids pop that cork a couple times, and then you know the result.
Yeah, it's called Poppy Down. That's what it is.
Poppy Down.
That's it.
And it's pretty cool because you're going to catch snapper, mackerel, bluefish, and the most important thing is you're going to keep the kids busy. And it's a great way to get them to learn to cast. And with these popping corks these days, they've got them to where you can really cast them. My last photo tonight is of a young man that I've seen grow up. I call him the man-child now. That's Mike McDonald's son, Dylan, 15 years old and growing like a weed.
Yeah, he is.
With a big old gator trout.
That's it.
Thanks, Paige. Here's the Daiquiri Deck hotspots for the Central West region. Jeffrey says, lots of schools of redfish throughout the entire region. You want to look for those fish pushing water and crashing baits on all of the flats. It's tough to beat a weedless 1/4 ounce Johnson Gold spoon. And then offshore, quality mangrove snapper holding over the reefs and hard bottom areas in 80 to 100 feet of water. Live or chunks of pilchards and pinfish are going to be your best bait.
You're
I like
absolutely
that
right.
tip. The tips these guys on the West Coast are giving.
Yeah.
Start with the dead bait, then go to the live. That way you don't ruin your bite with the live bait to begin with. Those are great tips.
Exactly. And guys, stick around because next is the Real Legend Central East region with our very own Jim Ross here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Remember, he promised us a secret. He has a surprise. Power Pole is always inventing better products and making it easier for us to install as well as use.
I couldn't live without mine. And the new charge system is just one of those things that those guys put time into, make sure that it works right, and make sure that it's easy for guys like you and me that accustomed to fishing, not working on things to be able to use.
Absolutely right. As you guys can see, with me is my man, Jim Ross. He's in the house. And we've saved the best for last, of course. So, Jim, why don't you tell us what's going on in the Real Legends Central East region?
Well, Rick, yellowtail snapper aren't a common catch in my Real Legends region. But we do have a few of them, and this time of the year is typically when we find them. That late summer bite is when we get our yellowtails. So what you guys and gals want to do is, remember, this typically isn't a targeted species in my region, but you can catch them. Get out there and chum just like you would in the Florida Keys. They seem to feed in the same manners on the same depths. You're looking at anywhere from 65 or 70 feet out to 100, 110 feet. And you want to start chumming lightly and then build that chum and bring those fish up to the boat. Like Randy was saying in his part of his report, fish one bait at a time. Don't get just don't get nervous. Don't put too much pressure on those fish because there's not a lot of them, and you're only going to get a limited time to try and catch them. And typically, chumming with glass minnows, sardines, things of that nature tend to work pretty well. I've got a picture here. Now, this is the surprise I was talking about. Look at the size of that flag that Captain Dustin caught. This came off the Ocean Obsession 2 party boat. So if you guys and gals are looking for a way to get offshore and you don't have it, check out some of our party boats in the Central East region, because this is what you can potentially catch.
That's an awesome flag. Tell me about the amberjacks, bub.
Well, the reef donkeys are schooling on the wrecks right now, anywhere from 180 to about 230 feet of water, and even on out to about 260 right now. What you want to do though, vertically speed jig these fish, and make sure that you're getting way up current of your spot. You know, you don't want to just drop directly over the top of it, because we have a lot of current over those depths right now. So get out there, get way up current, and then bring your jig down through the school of fish after you've marked them. You can also drift through them with blue runners, pinfish, and grunts. And of course, you know, that current is, like I said, is pretty strong. And the one thing that you have to remember about these things is sandbar sharks will eat them, and we still have a sandbar shark problem. So there's a couple of things you're going to need to do. One, use heavy gear, and you got to rub some MAN on yourself and get those things up off the bottom, and that way you can keep them from getting to be, you know, sandbar shark bait. Right now, most of our jacks are running around 20 to 25 pounds, but we've got a few larger fish out there. Now, inshore, Snook Bite, Snook season opened yesterday, and the snook have been absolutely fantastic for the past 3 months throughout all of our region. All of our indications right now are showing that that fantastic snook bite is going to last right on through to October, and live croakers, mullet, and pinfish are your top bait choices at all 3 inlets. Here's another thing I just got a tip from Captain Mark Gibson up in Ponce Inlet area, and he was saying that the jumbo shrimp are really working well up there as well. Now, if you're wanting to throw artificials, great backwater snook action can be had on the 5-inch soft plastic jerk shad that Saltwater Assassin makes, and the gold pepper shiner, Arkansas shiner, and alewife colors seem to be working best right now, especially in the Banana and Indian rivers. Good choices of hooks are 4/0 to 5/0 size hooks, and then, you know, live croakers, pinfish, all those things that we use at the inlets also work in the backwaters. Bone and chartreuse colored chrome topwater plugs are working really well. And remember, most of our fall snook are going to be right in that 28 to 32 inch mark, right along that those shorelines. Now, you will find some smaller ones, and you're going to find a lot of bigger ones out at the inlets. Then my last species is redfish. We've got some really big bulls that are showing up. They're schooling around in the Indian and Mosquito lagoons. A few of them are even starting to school up in the Banana River. Most of those fish are 40 to 50 inches, and you're going to be looking for those fish to school up for their annual spawning ritual. If you see them spawning, catch 1 or 2, but leave them alone. Let them do their spawn. Most of those fish are going to be found out in the 4 to 8 foot depths. And you can throw topwater plugs, 5-inch assassin die dappers, or large spoons, and they will normally crush it. And this is the size fish that we're talking about. You can expect to catch this with this photo.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
That's a big one. So why don't you tell me what your hot spots are,
Well,
big
the hot
boy?
spots for my region are inshore. You know, get your Rodian out, put it over the side of the boat, and then cruise along those jetties for those snook, especially up around the New Smyrna area. You can also get, you know, them around those bridges. Use live shrimp, finger mullet, or croakers on a knocker rig. And then offshore, the Gag Grouper bite's been really good on the Okalina Coral Bank. The blue runners and grunts and croakers that we're using for those amberjack are also working well for those fish on those standard bottom rigs. Just got to get them a little bit deeper.
Right. You're absolutely right. So coming up, guys, we've got all our reports are certainly in. So we're going to take a real short break here, and then we're going to go ahead and check out what we got to share with you for next week. It's going to be a secret, but I'll share it with you. So stick around. Well, next week we're talking Wahoo, so make sure you tune in. Right, Dave?
Yeah, he's my favorite fish. You know, like yours is Tarpon. I'd much rather catch a Wahoo.
Really? I would have thought that it was the blue marlin.
Well,
the man spent his life writing about blue marlins.
Well, all marlins are great, but Wahoos are really good too.
And
they're delicious.
And Wahoos can be eaten.
Yeah,
That's the secret.
That's the thing.
There's the secret.
Wahoos and dolphins. That's what I'm fishing for most of the time.
So Jim, you guys did a good job. You know, we had a lot to cover. Not only did we have Brie
a lot of guests,
but we had guests, we had interviews. I'm really proud. I'm impressed. We even brought Randy in.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of people in here today.
It's when you have all these potential
You'd think
hazards,
it would be easier, but it's not.
It is not. It really isn't. But the boys club somehow or another managed. But you know what, guys? Don't forget, you can check out our calendar, when all the shows air on time. You can go to our website.
I was going to say, hopefully we did a good job for Brie, so when she comes back, she doesn't feel like she has to fix everything.
I'm sure she'll watch this and she'll see that job security is everything. Night-night, guys.
Bye-bye.